even though Sharon won the Central Likud Party vote by 104 voices, Netanyahu has said that even though he's lost stage one of this and he respects the democratic decision of the party members, he will contest the April primaries next year. So it's definitely not over, and I think that Netanyahu still believes he can become prime minister.
A majority of Israelis supported the decision to withdraw from Gaza, even though Mr. Netanyahu did not. What are Mr. Netanyahu's electoral fortunes like?
Well, I think the majority of Israelis have shown, even though they've suffered 4 years of Palestinian uprising and suicide attacks, they've shown that they're committed to peace. And they've, in a sense, emboldened Prime Minister Sharon to take this very dramatic and very courageous step in disengaging from Gaza. And these are not my words. These are the words of French President Chirac, Prime Minister Blair, and President Bush. I think the majority of Israelis understand that Sharon is a man with a vision. He's a pragmatist. He's not an ideologue. And we need to understand that there's a lot of support for Netanyahu within the business community, but I don't think it's something that actually extends to the general population. I mean, he's done some wonderful things like privatize the ports and the banks. Israel's growth has risen, unemployment has dropped, and there was a prominent letter by a businessman who said that he supports Netanyahu, but I don't think this extends to the general population.
If Mr. Netanyahu is able to succeed in deposing Mr. Sharon next April, what are the dangers for Likud? Is Mr. Sharon the sort of politician who'd be prepared to leave the party, set up his own party, and take his support base with him at the expense of Likud?
Sharon aides and political analysts have said that Sharon may quit Likud if he loses. If he had lost this vote, or if he loses in the primaries next April, and had a new centrist party tapping into the cross-party majority support for his policy of disengagement from Gaza. Now, there have been polls after polls. For instance, Yediot Ahronot, who's Israel's leading daily, published a poll on the eve of the Likud executive meeting, showing that Israeli Prime Minister Sharon would comfortably win an election if he formed a new party in the event that he lost the Likud leadership. And they showed that he would win 36 parliament seats, 4 less than what he has now, while Netanyahu-led Likud would win 14. So I think we need to understand that there's an internal debate within the Likud. The Likud, which was formed in a sense in May 15, 1948, the original name was Cherut, in Hebrew stands for freedom. It was formed by Begin, who won the elections in 1977, the late Menachem Begin. And he defined the central tenet of the party as the entire homeland. So the land of Israel, including the West Bank. And within the Likud, there are dissidents, there are rightist elements who believe that Sharon betrayed the party by giving back biblical lands, Gaza, and I think in the future the West Bank. So there's a debate, there's a profound debate and a split within the Likud party, and you can see it by this very close vote.
What do you make of the argument that is advanced by Mr. Netanyahu that the Gaza withdrawal simply gave heart to terrorists?
I don't think anybody expected the situation to be different. I mean, there were some optimists, both within the Israeli community and also within the international community, that Hamas and the Palestinian Authority would immediately cease all terrorist activities. But we need to remember that Gaza is still in its first steps. It's only been 2 weeks since the disengagement. And more needs to be done. Hamas has just been warned by the Egyptians that they've gone too far in launching rocket attacks. And we have to remember that over the last few days there's been a barrage of more than 40 rockets fired on Israeli towns by Hamas. And there's been no response by the Palestinian Authority security forces. So it's to be expected that the Israeli Air Force would attack the facilities related to Palestinian terror organizations. And the Palestinian militants and other Palestinian factions have to be controlled, have to be restrained by President Abbas.
So what does Abbas need to do to advance that peace process?
Well, I think what President Abbas needs to do is, first of all, go back to the roadmap, which is a performance-based agreement towards a two-state solution. And that's a principle that most parties agreed to, and that's the first step, is to end terror and violence. And what he needs to do is not just to use the power of words, but also to unify all of the armed groups in Gaza into one organization. He needs to disarm Hamas and Islamic Jihad. And he needs to start confronting the terrorist regime that has grown in Gaza. He needs to look at the condition of Gaza life. He needs to resettle the residents in decent housing. But most importantly, I think what President Abbas needs to do is to temper the culture of hatred against Israelis that has become routine in Gaza schools. Everybody wants peace. He has a partner in Sharon who has been hailed as a man of vision, but they need to go through the difficult process of physical and spiritual renewal. And then the Israeli majority, which craves peace, will be willing to concede more territories in the West Bank.